So we're here. We're back. A Day in Miami. What's up, Day in Miami fans? We have a special one for you today. We have a special one for you today because this is an important thing that's going to be happening in the coming months. And we want all of our viewers and our listeners, everybody to really, really, really focus on what this position is going to mean in Dade County. So we have the one and only person that's running right now in our show today, Joe Sanchez, running for Sheriff of Dade County. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you for the invite.
No,
great to be here.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. So, first and foremost, let me just say that I've known this guy for let's say a couple of years, and I got to tell you, since I met him in when I was in another position, what really I saw within Joe was a people person. A guy that really knew how to communicate to people from the heart. He wasn't a politician. So he came into this position and he had to become a politician. But I always say that the best thing is when you're a person that knows how to deal with the public, and you can now all of a sudden say, I'm a politician, now I have to deal with political issues, there's a difference. And a lot of people saw that in you. And I saw that in you. And when I saw that you were running for sheriff, I said, you're gonna be one of the important ones to try and beat. I know this is a very, very congested, race right now. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that don't even understand what this sheriff is. And I tell you, because I just had this conversation this weekend, I said, no, because the sheriff position, what do you mean? What do you mean a sheriff? Isn't that Broward? And I go, yeah, but now we're going to have a Dade County sheriff. When was that voted for? A while back ago. So I think it's a great moment also to explain, one, how this came about, and the sense of, the most important thing, why Joe Sanchez for sheriff. And then, of course, now we'll have our questions from our recent guy that was on a 15-day vacation.
And just got back.
He just got back.
Ready to go.
Comes back with demands as soon as he gets here.
Good to have you back.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Lord. I think to start off, the first question I would ask, considering the landscape in politics right now, is why do you want to do this? Why would you do this, knowing that the ramifications that come with trying to run for a position and everything that comes with it?
Well, listen, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm a product of this community. I've been here 52 years. I'm not some of these people that have moved out and now they're moving back in to run for office. So I am a product of this community. I got here from Cuba when I was 6 years old. My parents got here. We came in freedom flights. And this is the community that basically gave us the opportunity for us to accomplish the American dream. And I've done that. I grew up here. This is the community that gave me that opportunity. I went to high school here. I fell in love here. I got married here. My children were born here. And I gave back to this country because the first thing that I did when I had the opportunity, I graduated from high school and had the opportunity to go to school, I said, look, you know what? I'm going to join the service. And then I did that. It was a great experience for me.
Wow.
So I was in the Army Reserve. You went in. Came out, and I said to myself, I'm going to take that money, and I'm going to use that money to get educated with the GI Bill because my parents didn't have any money. I mean, we've lived in Little Havana, and I still live in Little Havana, so that goes to show you how
Best
deep.
spot ever, brother.
That goes to show you how deep my roots are in this community. So when I came out of the service, looking for a job, and I wanted to be a law enforcement officer because that's something that I always wanted to do. And then the Florida Highway Patrol gave me that opportunity. So I've been with the Florida Highway Patrol on and off for 36 years. And when I say on and off, it's because
lifetime.
Yeah, that the profession that I chose, and believe me, it was not for the money. It was for the passion. Today, some people get in that profession maybe for the money. I did it because I really wanted to serve the community. I've always wanted to be a police officer. I was very happy being a police officer till the opportunity came that I had the opportunity to get elected and be appointed to the City Miami Commission.
I was going to ask you a question on that really quick. As a child, at one point, I think every boy, a girl at one point maybe wants to get into law enforcement. You're arresting the bad guy.
Well, you see everybody in the costume.
Yeah,
I want to be a cop.
That's usually a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
How different is it from when you're little to when you actually do it?
Well, let me show you what made me be. Okay, let me tell you something. I'll never forget. I was 6 years old. First time our parents take us to Walt Disney, it was 1970 something. And we drive to Walt Disney, have a great time. We're driving back, and my dad gets stopped by a state trooper. Okay, I'm 6 years old.
Speeding.
Yeah, he was speeding. Of course, he was speeding. So I'm sitting in the back of the car, and he gets stopped. Now my dad doesn't know a word of English, and the state trooper didn't know a word of Spanish. Damn. So he gets there and he's talking to my dad, and he tells me, you went the wrong way. He choked.
Okay. Damn, bro.
My bad. I was trying to hold it in.
That's what happens when you're putting tequila inside a water bottle.
No. Sorry, Joe.
So where do I start? Since the beginning?
No, he got pulled over. Go.
Oh yeah. So my dad gets pulled over. He doesn't know. My dad doesn't know a word of English, and the state trooper doesn't know a word of Spanish. So I'm sitting in the back seat, and it comes up. The state trooper comes up, asks him for his driver's license registration. My dad gives it to him, and the officer, he's having a hard time communicating. And the officer, my dad goes, translate for me.
To you?
Yeah, so I translate. So I translate. The guy was a super nice guy. I'm looking at this guy. He was sharply dressed. He treated my dad with respect, and dignity. Driver's license, insurance registration. I think at the end of the transaction between the traffic stop, he gave him a warning. So okay. I'm telling my dad, no, people no, they don't take it. He gave you a warning. So since that day, that positive image that I got from that officer being so nice to my dad, and my dad was speeding, and he got stopped, and he got the ticket, and he got the warning.
Yeah, happens to the best of us.
Yeah. So I was like, that left such a good impression on me. That when I decided to apply for departments, I said, and I would always see the Florida Highway Patrol, and I think it's a great organization. And I said to myself, I'm going to apply for the Florida Highway Patrol. And long and behold, I got accepted. I went to Tallahassee, graduated. First Hispanic to be stationed in Fort Pierce for a year and a half till I was able to get my transfer. So law enforcement has always been in my heart.
Gotcha. And I was going to say, usually I believe when I've been pulled over probably like a dozen times in my life.
Let's not say how many times you're
pulled over. And it's usually for something really silly, crossing a median, speeding, taking my daughter to school, and I was late and I went on the bike path. And for 80% of the times, if you respect the cop, if you're, doing things the right way, showing the paperwork, and just, admitting that you have a fault.
How it should be.
They have let me go. They've given me a warning and said, hey, don't worry about it. Just don't do it again.
I can speak from experience, okay? And I was out on the road probably all 15 years that I was out on the road, really working the road. If I stopped somebody who was out there, speeding, wasn't putting his life in danger, somebody else's lives in danger, and I stopped him. And he had a good attitude. He had his driver's license okay, insurance was okay. He met all the requirements. Man, I had the discretion of giving you a warning or a ticket. I, most of the time, chose the opportunity to give you a warning. Now, if you were out there doing 100-some miles an hour, putting your life in danger, putting other people's lives in danger, I have a job to do, and I had to do that job because I'll tell you one thing. For the entire time that I was out on the road, I did 27 notification Mexicans, okay? That is the toughest thing that I or any trooper has to do is when you work a traffic fatality and you are, not the THI, you are the primary investigator, it is your job to notify that family that family member was deceased in an automobile accident. So I did it 27 times. I did it 27 times, man, and I can remember vividly each and every time that I did that. It was the hardest thing I had to do. Everybody has to overcome that. And believe me, when you knock on somebody's door at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and you tell them that their loved ones are not ever coming home, man. And you can't, and you listen, you got to show up and you got to know what you're doing. Yeah, you got to be trained for that because it is the worst news that anyone could ever receive. Yeah. And I did it 27 times, and that is by far the hardest thing that a trooper does today.
I have a daughter now. Manny has a daughter. She started driving, and it's terrifying.
No, I don't want to talk about that. Yeah. I can't even fathom the fact that when she goes on the street by herself.
With the texting and driving now, and the talking on the phone, and the screens in the car, and the GPS, and everything.
There's a lot of distraction. A lot of distraction
Look,
in the car.
Miami-Dade, sadly, is, when it comes to traffic, we're the number one in fatalities in the nation.
Number
one fatality in the nation. We lead in fatalities in the nation, Miami-Dade.
I didn't know that.
We're number one in pedestrian fatalities. In other words,
there was one today in the morning.
There's one every day.
Right now, it just came out.
Sadly, there's one every day. So, those are the things that, when you say, we, of course, and I want to emphasize this, we have to give priority to violent crimes. Those are the crimes that really affect our family. It destroys families, and it leaves a scar in anybody when you become a victim of violent crime. But there's all kinds of crimes that a sheriff is going to have to address in this county to make sure that we feel safe. And it's from prostitution, whether it's drug, illegal panhandling, burglary, fraud, and it goes up all the way to battery, murder. We're going to have to address all those crimes.
Well, that's good you say that, because my next question to you was, okay, so I want everybody to understand a little bit. Why now Dade County a sheriff?
Well, we didn't have, the last time that we had a sheriff in Miami-Dade was 1965. And they got away with it. So the county took the position of, okay, we're not going to have a sheriff's department. We're going to have a police department. And basically a police department, what happens is the sheriff is the mayor. The mayor and the commissioners, of course, have a say in the process. So the mayor hires a director of public safety. Right. And that is the perfect who overruns public safety in the county. Well, 2018, the constitutional amendment was passed, and it made it very clear that Miami-Dade was going to comply just like every other county. All counties are going to have a sheriff department. And the beauty of it is that individual is the one that is responsible for law and order and enforcing the laws. He comes with a great responsibility. Absolutely. But what it does is that it's all elected by the people. So at the end of the day,
that's what I like.
That individual is held accountable.
Absolutely.
Which is something that we need to do in law enforcement. We need to hold people accountable. So the sheriff is accountable. The sheriff, of course, has to deal and address the people. The people are the boss here. The sheriff answers to the people of Miami-Dade. Of course, you got to work with the governor, you got to work with the commissioners, you got to work with the mayor, because you basically, whoever the sheriff may be, and I emphasize on this, the mayor of Miami-Dade County is not going to be someone who either has ranks or titles. It is someone who has a multitude of experiences to be able to take this department and have a smooth transition from a Miami-Dade Police Department to a sheriff's department. And that individual needs to have experience and a variety of things. And that's why I am running for sheriff, because I have that experience, military experience. 37 years with a department that I've held just about every specialty position. I was a senior vice president of Florida PBA, so I've negotiating contracts on both sides of the table. Well, I've been always negotiating contracts for the people I represented at the union, and then I also represented the city of Miami as an elected official for 11 years on the other side. No one has that experience. So overall, the experience that I bring to the table, City Commission, look, we had to approve a balanced budget every year by state law. So no one's done that in the candidates. Yeah. I've hired and fired directors. I have approved, disapproved, reviewed, and fought for budgets.
Yeah, because not only now sheriff of law and order, you have a department to run. So there's a budget there's a huge department.
And a billion-dollar budget.
So there's a lot.
That brings a question. I mean, someone like me, I have no idea how that world works, which is actually why this conversation is actually extremely intriguing to me. I just imagine, you get elected. Yeah. First day, what is it that you do? How do you start managing something of that magnitude? How is it that you usually work something out like that? Or is that something that, is there like a roadmap? Is there processes in place already, or is that something you need to develop?
Well let me answer that question in a variety of ways. One, I don't care who gets elected, and I hope it's me. No one's going to be able to do this. The sheriff is not going to be able to do this by itself. You need to surround yourself with the best of the best directors.
Good point.
A lot of talent in Miami-Dade Police Department. It's a very good department with a lot of talent that needs to come up and be a part of the success of that department. But there's also a transition team, and it's not only running a sheriff's department, it's also the transition that's going to take 3 years to be able to transfer all the duties and responsibilities over to that department. You're talking about procurement, you're talking about legal administration, you're talking about budget, you're talking about someone who's going to have to hire these directors. That's where the experience comes in. Excellent. I've done that. I did that at the Downtown Development Authority of the City of Miami. I was the chairman of the Downtown Development Authority. I was the chairman of Bayfront Park. When you talk about hiring directors and focusing on security, look, Bayfront Park, you're talking about Bayfront Park. Bayfront Park, you have every year New Year's Eve party. Yeah. Hundreds of thousands of people go.
Ultra, that's happening right now.
Listen, I, as a chairman, had to work with the police department on our safety plan. And you know what? The city of Miami does an incredible job, and Ray Martinez does an amazing job because he's able to bring in people together and foster and leverage on the resources that everybody has. That's just not the city of Miami. Every department has a mutual aid. They work together. It's something they've done every year. And every year as they do it, they get better and better and better. And you see that in these events, incidents are being reduced. People who need the services are there should they need. And it's all about preventing. That's the whole thing here is it's an ingredient. It's a very simple ingredient. It's called proactive police, having a plan and action, proactive and preventing. If you're able to do that, you're going to have a safe place. And that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants public safety. People want to go to events. They want to go out in the community, and they want to feel safe with not having to think about fear. Fear of, is my car going to be broken into? Yeah. If somebody's going to rob me? Is somebody going to take my watch? Is somebody going to hurt my child? So that is the greatest challenge that we have in law enforcement today is to work together with all the resources that we have to ensure that people are free of fear.
Well, I think to that point, I think we just saw this also with the spring break, and we see what City of Miami Beach did.
They did a good job.
I think they did an excellent job.
They did a good job because they reached out.
They reached out, and I think it really worked in the sense of past other experiences that we've had here. What was it last year? The year before that was like
it was ridiculous. Shootings on.
There's no reason why you can't come to spring break. Yeah. I mean, I used to love spring break, but you wanted to go to spring break in a place, to your point, that you don't have to worry if you're walking down, you're going to go to a restaurant, somebody's going to rob you, somebody's going to take your purse, somebody's going to take your watch.
And there's a couple things there. That starts at that level, but that affects businesses in every way, shape, and form.
Absolutely.
It impacts tourists, residents, and as of late, the city has always been known as like a party city, and that's not a title that we want to be known for anymore. We want to be a destination where you come with your family, South Beach, etc. And that's really like the path forward for us to be and continue the growth that Miami has seen. Me growing up in Miami, I'm sure you guys have seen it much longer than I have, obviously. But the way Wynwood has changed, South Beach has actually declined. Yeah. No tourists, no residents go to South Beach anymore.
It could be done. Could be done. Look at Calle. We just did Calle right now. Look at Juani's. I remember 10, 15, 20 years ago, there was like 2 or 3 stabbings.
Crazy.
Shooting.
Yes.
It was horrible. And it started to get a bad rap. And how did they address the issue? It's called proper policing, man. You prepare yourself for these events. You use all the resources that you have. In today's world in law enforcement, we have so much technology that we use. Did we have drones 30 years ago? No. Did we have live crime audio and videos and stuff that we had centers? We have that today. We could put a camera at an intersection and see just about the entire
everybody's face.
So exactly. So we need to use all the resources that we have to apply it towards public safety. And if we're able to do that, and I know that through my leadership as a sheriff, I will get it accomplished because I have a great relationship with all the municipalities. I'm willing to work with everybody because at the end of the day, everybody who takes that oath when you're sworn in as a police officer is to uphold the Constitution and the laws, whether it be the federal laws, state laws, or local laws. We need to work together, utilize all our resources, and use the community to be able to link the community and law enforcement as to the needs of the community so we can address those problems. It could be done. It can be done.
So right now, you've been campaigning.
Yes, sir.
You've been going up and down. What is the biggest concern you're getting from a lot of people right now? What's the focus? Joe Sanchez becomes sheriff. What are the people telling you out there? What's the feel you get from?
Well, listen,
concern?
I'm traveling the whole county because it's a big county to
right.
start off. And let me tell you that the community as a whole has different needs. You know, some parts of the community are getting the white glove treatment while others are having to fend for themselves. And when I say that is you have certain areas that if you call a police officer, you're going to get a police officer in 2 to 3 minutes. Then you have other sectors in a community. If you call a police officer, you're going to get a police officer 8 to 15 minutes. That's a big difference. At the end of the day, everyone should expect to get equal service from the police department.
Right.
And it can be done.
And it's something that, to your point, I've heard a lot with the fact of, you know, why some people, let's say, like to move into the municipalities because they want to have that municipality, you know, police service. and saying, okay, what am I getting from the Miami-Dade police? To your point, what's the response time? So do you think that's also a lack of maybe that there's not that many police officers?
Absolutely.
Do we want to try and entice people to become a police officer again?
Well, let me answer that in 2 ways.
Yeah.
One is, absolutely, we need more police officers out on the street. I say we need more boots on the ground.
Okay.
And we're talking about police officers that in a department of today, it's almost a 4,500 personnel department. You would have a lot of individuals that are doing civilian work that job can be done by a civilian. That individual has been trained as a police officer. He was sworn in a police officer, and he's getting paid as a police officer. So I believe that in certain situations, those individuals could be out on the street. And when we're talking about putting more people out on the street, we have more police presence in the street. We have more resources in the street. And we're able to address the issues of one community getting a 2-minute response and another one getting a 10-minute response. So if we look at the department, and the beauty of it is, and I say it here because I'm an outsider. I'm not from the Miami-Dade Police Department. Although I know the department, I know that it's a good department. It's got a lot of great people in that department. I'm an outsider. I'm not like the other individuals that are running in that department that have been 20-something years. They've had high ranking, and there's a lot of friends in that department. I don't know anybody of favor in that department. I could come in with a clean slate and make the necessary adjustments for the betterment of the department as to what it is that we need to do through an assessment of a department. See, hey, listen, if this section isn't up to par, let's make it better.
Right.
And if this one is very good, let's try to make it better. And let's realign the department to be able to provide a better service for the residents and visitors of Miami-Dade County. That's what they want. Listen, when the one thing that if you ask people, hey, if you're ever in a situation, what do you want? I mean, if I call the police, I want them there quick. If I want fire, I want them quick.
Absolutely.
They're not worried about the garbage. Hey, pick up my garbage. But if I have to call somebody, who I want there first, I want a police or a firefighter for the service. You pay for that service. That service is there, and then we train those officers to address the issues of the community. And let me tell you something: the department, the training facility. I visited it. I've also participated there when I was a SWAT member. I trained there and stuff. It needs to be fixed up a little bit, but it does provide a great training facility. It is a great training facility for our officers. But at the end of the day, I think that overall, law enforcement is about image. Mm-hmm. It's about a service. And if you live in a community where the officer that works your neighborhood, you don't know his name.
That's a good point.
It's community policing, man. Listen, everybody knows me. Yeah. If I walk in a restaurant, I want to say hello to you, even if you don't know me. I mean, you can look the other way if you want and not say hello to me, but I want you to know me.
Yeah, and that also gives like that small town feel. Even though we're in a big city,
it's community policing at its best.
That's awesome. Like knowing your, I know you know the police in your neighborhood. I don't know the police in my neighborhood. I would love to. Yeah. And create a relationship with them.
But it's not only neighborhoods; it's businesses. If you have a commercial sector. Like I guarantee you one thing, Miracle Mile, those businesses know the police officers that work that zone.
Absolutely.
Because they walk around, you get to know them. Hey, you talk to them. I don't want you to invite my officers to your house for dinner every
day. Of course.
I want them to work. But, I want you to have that human touch where we're able to connect. Hey, how are you? And if you need that service, at least you know the person. That we need to build on that. And that's why when I say we need to be in sync with the community, we need to be in sync with the community.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, there's some questions that came in. This is probably, this is more like a...
Well, there's a good part of our program with Day Miami because we have all the Day Miami people that are following us that want to go ahead and ask the questions.
This is kind of like debunking a myth. But everybody feels like this is true, or maybe you can shed some light on it. Is it true that there are quotas that officers need to meet for tickets at the end of the month?
There are no quotas. Listen, police officers are going to go out there. They're going to do their job. They're going to use their judgment. But there are no quotas. As to tickets and as an arrest, no. I mean,
everybody tells you at the end of the month.
That's correct. It's like a thing.
No.
They're arresting people at the end of the month. They're giving tickets.
Maybe years ago when I was with the Florida High Patrol, it was a thing that you 2 contacts per hour. That's what your supervisor said. Hey, you need to make 2 contact with violators or the public. If not, you weren't doing anything.
Got you.
But quotas, no, there are no quotas, man. We listen. Police officers, as it is, it's a very dangerous profession. as it is, there's always going to be issues that they have to address, and they have to be trained. As sheriff, the one thing that I guarantee is all my police officers, all my deputies, are going to have the best equipment to be able to accomplish their
That's the important part.
they're going to have the best safety equipment to make sure that when they do their dangerous job, they're going to get to go home to their families.
Yeah.
All right?
I think that's one of the more important parts. We were talking earlier about South Beach. I play basketball with a lot of cops. Most of them are South Beach. Some of them used to be detectives from homicide and other parts of the city. And they were telling me about last year or the year before in South Beach that they had to prioritize violent crime over like petty crime, but that they would see people in the streets drinking alcohol, smoking marijuana, etc. And they said, like, what is it they want us to do?
Simple. It's very simple. Look, small crimes lead to bigger crimes that lead to violence.
That's a good point. I never thought about it like that.
It is. Listen, if you look at New York, it's a disaster right now.
Yeah.
But years ago, under John Timoney, when he was up there in New York, they came up with the broken window theory. And it's if you let a community look bad, if there's crimes, people are afraid. People don't want to come out. You got to come in and you got to stop those small little crimes, because those little crimes have a negative impact on everything. I'll be honest with you. People say, what's your number one industry here? It's tourism. We live off of tourism. Yep. I mean, people come down here for our beaches, for the diversity that we have, with a great community and county that we have. But, if you have acts of violence, crime, and a bad perception, people won't come. Paradise Lost. I remember years ago when I was out on the street, we were working the robbery task force when they were robbing the tourists. Basically, they would come out of the airport. They had a tag that said a Z or an X. You're a tourist. They would bump your car. They would rob you. And then they ended up shooting on 995 the German tourists. Well, guess what? Time Magazine came out and said, Paradise Lost.
Wow.
And that article alone, you could go to the airport and take a bowling ball and roll it and not hit anybody. We suffered for years because of that. We had to spend millions of dollars in publicity to try to get Miami back safe, and people started coming back. We could never allow that. And we're being faced with some challenges nowadays that we're going to have to address in the law enforcement community. We have an open border that's going to be affecting us, and it's not just an open border crisis. It is a national crisis. It is a law enforcement crisis. It is a drug crisis. It is an identity crisis that certain cities throughout the United States are having to deal with that. It's coming our way.
You just talked
and
about
we
that.
need to be prepared for that. And the next sheriff better have a plan. And I have one.
Yeah. So touching on the border situation, could we touch a little bit on what's with the Cuba issue? Cuba right now.
The Cuba issue right now, it's what's happening is that, the people of Cuba have had enough. I mean, we've been fighting and praying and supporting them to have a free Cuba. My parents, my dad.
No, I know. I get stuff for everybody.
No, listen. My dad died, and the one thing that he told me, he was very proud of what he accomplished. But he said the one thing he accomplished was a free Cuba.
Yeah.
I remember him telling that in bed when he died. Sorry, I got emotional.
No, brother.
I usually don't get emotional. No.
We all feel it. Trust me.
Till this day now, we have an opportunity. Look what the people of Cuba are doing. Enough is enough. I mean, if we ever had an opportunity to have a free Cuba, it's now. It's in their palm of their hands. I mean, the Cuban people have been.
Why do you say that now before, why? Because we always feel like it's now, it's now.
I'll tell you why it's now. Because what are they asking for now? They're asking for food and electricity. What else are they going to ask for when you have... They're asking for food and electricity, man. I mean, these are people that don't... You know what it is if you have a child at night and you don't have an AC or a fan and it's 90 to 100 degrees and you have no food to feed your kid? Man, give me a rock. I'll die with a rock in my hand.
Yeah.
But I won't be deprived of my freedom. And that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
And you know what? We need to support them. We need to support them. This government needs to support them now, because I guarantee you their freedom is in their palm of their hand. And it's the youth that's going on the street now. And let me tell you something. You want to talk about brave men and women and children? These kids are going out there, man, with nothing to defend themselves. And you know what? They're going against bullets. They're going against clubs. They're going against bats. They're going against a regime that would not give up their power. So I see it coming, and you know what? Willie Chirino's right.
I feel that you're saying something, because not only that, look at the Haiti issue.
Another situation.
It's another situation, so it's people have gotten fed up. You know what I'm saying? You understand the sense of, like, you have Haiti revolting over there. You have the Cubans with another situation again in Cuba. And to your point, if it gets there, are we here? Are we prepared? Are we prepared? Do you think that we need to prepare a little bit more? We have another mass exodus of people coming over and stuff like that. Yeah.
We're not prepared right now, but should it get to that?
Yeah,
we need to be prepared.
We need to be.
I mean, were we prepared with Mariel? I remember I was in high school in Mariel. My dad went to Mariel to bring family. And was the city of Miami prepared? And when I became a city commissioner, I had the opportunity to talk to Cesar Orio, who was there, and some of these old timers, Mauricio Ferrer,
yes, of course.
People that I looked up to. These were mentors of mine. These were people that opened the door for us. And I would ask him that, and they said, we weren't prepared for that. We had to deal with that. Mm-hmm. So the question is, in law enforcement, are we prepared? I don't think we are. And we need to get prepared, because it's coming. Just like, listen, thank God, and I pray the good Lord that we haven't had an active shooter, we haven't had a massive shooting, but law enforcement needs to be prepared for those things. It's like an athlete. An athlete trains for that game, right?
Yeah.
And you repeat it, and you repeat it, and you do it, and you practice, so when it does happen, you're ready for it. We need to be ready for it. So I pray for the Cuban people. I hope that Cuba will be free. I think if that does happen, I think people will stay in the island. I think there's going to be resources going over there. I think the government's going to have to help. I think the good people of the world will help Cuba get back on its feet. But it's there, man. I feel it. It's something that now I see on TV, and I see what's happening, and I see it happening. Yeah. I pray that there's not a bloodshed, but I see it happening.
Yeah, in most cases, most of the time what that comes down to is going to end up being like a civil war or something along those lines to change.
They're not going to give up power so easily, man. They've held it for 60-something years. They're just not going to turn it over. But you know what? It's hard. It's hard to fight people that go out on the street, and you're seeing it now, and you're going to see more and more of it, man. When they're saying, I'm hungry. I am hungry. Yeah. And not me hungry. My kids are hungry.
Listen, I have family over there, and they live in Ranchuelo, next to Santa Clara. And I send them money, and they call me and stuff, and they will tell me the last time I ate was 7 days ago, and it was 2 eggs.
Horrible.
And they're like, "There's no light, there's nothing here." And there's some of the best people. I've visited them before. Although I know a lot of like first generation Cubans here are prohibited from visiting Cuba because of what's happened with their families. I wanted to actually go over there and see it for myself. And even in La Habana, it looks like a bomb went off. And like things are just crumbling and falling apart.
To show you, man, communism doesn't work. It's failure. It's failure. Communism is a failure. It's been a failure since day one. Look at other countries that have gone. China's holding on, but every other country is falling apart because socialism and communism sucks. Yeah. It doesn't work. It takes from the poor. It makes you even poorer. And that's what's happening in Cuba. I thank my parents every day.
Likewise.
That they fled Cuba. And then, people say, well, you guys didn't stay back and fight. As you guys are, you're cowards. No, we weren't cowards. Our parents knew. I remember my dad telling me, when I saw people marching and dressed in green, and that you would have to go to school, and I knew what they were trying to teach you and stuff, we had to leave because I didn't want to put you and your brother through that. So when we got here in this country, man, I'm a proud Cuban American. I served this country. I believe in the Constitution, and you know what? I love this country. Yeah. This is my country.
I remember stories from my grandfather that he would tell me things along the lines of that the government would come into your house and count how many bedding sheets you had, how many.
Dude, they did an inventory. They did an inventory in my dad's house.
Yes,
and we had to sign everything over, including the car. And there were some things that they held us back because my dad had given to somebody else, and we had to go back. And you know what it is? You know what it is to tell a friend, hey, man, I gave you some furniture, man. Please give it back, or it's not going to let me leave the country.
Correct. Going back to one of the questions here. You talk a lot about, we talked a lot about what the people want. What does the department, what do the cops say that they need most? Have you been talking to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I'm a police officer. The police officers, look, they worked very hard for what they have. They have a pension, and they've earned that pension. And they have benefits. They've earned those benefits. Well, you know what they want? They want to be supported by the community. they want to be supported by the administration. They want to be supported by the sheriff, and I will do that. I will stick with my men and women in the sheriff's department.
Do you feel like that's not happening right now? Is there not enough support for that?
I'll tell you what's happening right now from talking to them. The department has a status quo that has to change, and as an outsider, I will bring those changes needed. Look, there's people in there now that build a career out of. They studied hard. They want to promote. And the promotions there are not based on merit, It's based on who you know at County Hall and who's your friend. Who do you go play softball with? Who do you smoke a cigar with?
Yeah.
That destroys the police department. The Florida Highway Patrol, which is a different culture. I'm not saying we're better than anybody. I want to make that very clear. Yeah. But our department, when it comes to promotion, man, you take a test and you pass that test. If you don't pass that test, you're gone. You can't compete anymore. But then they go through different steps, an oral interview, a variety of things. And they bring troopers from all over the states, from Jacksonville, from Orlando. So when you go, it's a fair process. I'm telling you, the officers in that department right now feel that, they're not represented by the department in some ways. They're not happy with the status quo. They feel that the promotions are not being based on merit. And right now, the department, after Freddie's situation, and I pray for Freddie, and I hope that he gets his life back together. And I want him to know that, at least me, I consider him a friend, and I pray for him. The department right now the morale is very low, and you can have a police department. Their morale is low. They don't think they're being supported by the community. And, of course, they're not being compensated as they should. I wanted to finish what I started, which was, police officers are going to have the best equipment to protect themselves, but also the training. Training, one of the biggest responsibilities a sheriff has, and a variety of them, is going to be training. I got to train those sheriffs to do their job and accomplish their mission. And not only do I have to train them to do their job, I also want to make sure that they're compensated for their job, because this is a dangerous job, and they do get benefits. So I will back them up. I'm here to support the department, and I'm here to make sure that the community will support the department that I represent. I'm very proud of the men and women in Miami-Dade Police Department and the Florida Highway Patrol, because that's been where I come from. That's where I've learned my core value of law enforcement.
So, a day in Miami, guys, listen. What is the first election that everybody has to be ready for? When is the primary?
August the 20th. August the 20th is the primary. Republicans need to go out. Listen, this is it's a partisan election.
Okay.
I wish it wasn't a partisan election, because I've never been. I've always, city of Miami, I ran a nonpartisan race.
I wish it would have been a nonpartisan.
Listen. You think I'm going to ask somebody, hey, you're a Democrat, I'm not going to represent you as a sheriff?
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm here to represent everybody. I'm here to represent everybody. Now, I have to say I'm a Republican, but I don't go out there and say, I'm a Republican, and vote for me because I'm a Republican. No. Vote for me because I'm the best candidate. And that's what people need to understand. You have a variety of candidates out there. Look at the one who has the most experience to be able to accomplish your mission. Your mission, which is your mission, is you want to be safe. You want the best public safety. You want your children to be safe. You want your house to be safe. You want your properties to be safe. And at the end of the day, elect an individual who has the experience in a variety of fields to hit the ground running and make this county one of the safest counties in our nation. And I'm willing to do that. I'm running for sheriff. My name is Joe Sanchez. I am the candidate of law and order. And that since day one has been law and order. I know some people have taken it from me, but my message to everybody is you're going to have a sheriff that's going to focus on law and order.
Well, so what we'll do now is, after August, we'll gather our new questions. If Joe is then our official candidate already for Republican, and we're going to bring you guys back again to a Day in Miami podcast.
I mean, listen, I can talk to you for hours.
Oh, I'm sure we could talk about hours. There's so many things. I
have so many things on my mind now.
So many important things.
You have someone from, you guys are the older generation. And
we could come back and talk about mental health issues.
In what sense, bro? I'm not that old. We're not that old.
I think you guys, at your time,
easy.
You guys were very in tune with the community, and you kind of knew how things worked. We are far away from that. A lot of things I don't even understand how they work in this community in these cases, especially with law enforcement.
If you've been here for so long and you've been through Andrew, I went through Andrew, every major hurricane, the tower collapse, the building collapse.
We had the flights.
The flight that fell.
You went through the cocaine cowboy times too.
Oh yeah,
I'm saying just a little.
But again, that has to be another podcast.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, we can be here
I've
too.
been here, man. Listen,
Yeah.
I have been here. The whole thing is that I have been here. While people have moved away, Joe Sanchez has stayed here.
You're playing for the hometown.
I've stayed here. I've been here through the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I've stayed here proud to say that I love Miami-Dade County, and I will continue to serve it. And I've done it. I've been a public servant. I get this now. My opponent just saying, "Oh, he's a politician." I haven't held office in 15 years. But here's my message to them: they're running for sheriff. Guess what? They're politicians too.
Yeah. Well, but remember how I started the podcast? I said when I met you, you were never a politician. You were a guy that
listen.
You were brought and appointed, and we always said that's a good guy. You have to become a politician once you're in public service. It's called
but you know what? I think a lot of times, like, a good leader doesn't ever really want to have to, like, they don't actually put themselves forward. They kind of are called to it, you know. And you've been like kind of called into this.
I was happy.
now.
I was happy in the Florida Patrol. I wasn't going to run for sheriff. Then the situation with Freddie and his people started calling me and telling me, "Hey, listen, you know, look at the people that are running. They're all from the department.
We need help.
They're going to continue to keep the same status quo. They're all defending themselves. They want to get in there, and not change anything." You know, and they tell me that some of these individuals, if they get elected, the only thing they're going to change is paint the car. They can put sheriff and a new uniform, maybe. And
listen, everybody's looking for an outsider to come in and try and resolve the problem.
That's always what's needed in these cases.
Every time that I've done it, I've done it with the City of Miami when we brought John Timoney for the City of Miami. It was the best thing we did for the City of Miami. City of Miami Police Department is a much better police department today through his leadership. And we did it in the Florida Highway Patrol, too. We brought in a colonel from Illinois, Grimmings. We brought him in, and it was the perfect timing for that department to change. And here we have a golden opportunity to take this department, perfect timing, to take it from that transition and make it a much better department to service the people it represents.
Yeah, this is an extremely important election, an extremely important position for the city. So I hope you guys listen carefully, and we'll be back. And
Joe,
make your
thank you,
decision.
brother.
No, thank you guys,
Thank you for
man.
coming.
Thank you for the coffee, too. That was a good coffee.
Thank you for telling everybody today in Miami. Everybody, August, we got to go vote. Everybody's got to go vote. Thank you.